If you look at our portfolio of 12 companies, I would say at least half of our traffic is still organic. That's one of our criteria when we acquire a company. We want to make sure that it has really good organic traffic. When we first started acquiring companies, we bought a few Amazon companies, but our experience, our expertise has been on the Google side of things. So we've acquired websites that are not reliant on Amazon. Our main strategies on the SEO side of things is two things. It's link building and then content. Content's sort of the biggest thing, is making sure that every week we have relevant content for each website. So for example, we own socksrock.com. If you Google custom socks or baseball stirrups, we rank number one organically. And that's because every week we have news articles or content, just things relating to socks, but not necessarily selling products to them. It's just giving them free information, like, why promotional socks are great, or the different type of knitting processes in socks, or how to improve your batting average, right? It's not related to our socks, but we sell a lot of baseball socks, which drives traffic to us. So it's just really giving away free content. And the hard part about SEO is you're not going to see the traffic tomorrow. It's like planting a seed and letting it grow. And so it definitely takes at least 6 months to really see the labor that you've put into SEO. So it's sort of like you have to be patient in how SEO works. But our biggest growth has been through SEO. And what we like about SEO, it's free traffic essentially. Compared to our competitors, since we're getting a lot of free traffic, we're able to spend a lot more now on advertising, because now we're getting this free traffic from organic, because supplemented with paid advertising, we're able to pay a lot more of a higher CPA because we're getting that additional traffic organically.
Besides just organic traffic, what are some of the things that you look at when you're evaluating a company to decide if it's a good fit for your portfolio?
Yeah. So I love Bill at Elements Brands. I just spoke to him yesterday. So him and I have really similar kind of goals. Mm-hmm. He likes to focus more on the consumer product goods, and I like to do more of the custom product side of things. But for criteria, because at the stage we've been at, and just looking at so many prospectuses, like I go through, I think, at least 100 prospectuses a month, just reviewing different deals. I have a 20-point checklist that the criteria has to meet, but the main ones are, it has to have a certain amount of net income. So we always look for businesses that are at least doing $500,000 in net income, because we're using financing to buy these businesses, because we're getting CEOs to run the companies. We need to have a high business income to be paying for these things. So the net income has to be high. It has to be at least driving 50% organic traffic. And then it has to be at least 5 years old. And the reason why it has to be a certain age is because, if you look at a business that's 12 months old versus a little more of an aged, the aged websites have a bit more strategies behind it, whether it's failed or things that have worked out. And so we like to capitalize on the data, the strategies, the email list, the social media side of things on those little more established websites. So those three things we generally like to look at.
I'd love to hear kind of your explanation for how you're buying these companies on a bank loan. What does that actually look like?
I think the cool part now about digital assets, whether it's software, affiliate content, or e-commerce, is banks are now willing to give loans on these non-tangible assets, right? Generally, people think that, you could get only loans on houses or commercial buildings and stuff. That's not the case anymore. When I first started buying 5 years ago, I could only do cash deals. Then I had to, get loans off, my other assets. I had to do refinancing to even come up with the money. But now banks are willing to give loans. The most popular loan right now, it's called the Sba Loan, a small business loan. So it's pretty much any bank could give that loan. It's basically a loan that is backed by the government. So if I were to default, the government would pay the bank. And generally the terms of those deals are it's a 10-year loan. It's prime plus 2.75%. So I think now that's like 8.25% interest rate. And then there's certain other criteria to even qualify for SBA loan, right? You have to have a good credit score. You have to have a decent income. But the main thing is to make sure that the business income is able to pay the debt financing. I think generally they look at about 40% ratio, the debt to income ratio generally. So if the business is making $20,000 in net income, the highest the bank would give you on that sort of the monthly payments is $8,000. Generally, if you're buying $1 million business, the bank will give you 80% of that loan. So that 20% you have to come up with. And with that 20%, you could even get a seller's note. So to give you sort of real numbers, if you buy $1 million business and at a 3x average multiple that a business goes for, it should be making about $333,000 in net profit. And if you take a 10-year loan on $900,000, your monthly payments may be around like 12 or 13 grand a month. I'm doing quick maths right now. So if the business is making $333,000 a month, a year, that's about $28,000 a month in net profit, and then you have your debt payments against that, which is $12,000. So you're left with $16,000 a month in net profit, and you only put down $100,000, right? So you're making your money back in 8 to 9 months on that cash to cash deal. So yes, you're taking on the risk of taking on a loan, but the investment just makes sense every single time where you're making your money back, in 9 to 10 months. I think that's just incredible the way the numbers work, even with the CEO in place.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm terrible at math, but I actually understood that. So what are the other things that you're really like, oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect business that I'd like to buy? I'd also be interested in like personality potentially of what you're thinking there.
Yes, that's a great question. And the matchup of the seller and buyer has to be there, right? The trust has to be there. I've gone through deals where the seller has told me, through the broker that he's making X amount of money. And once we get into due diligence and we look at the Shopify or their credit card statements, the number's way lower, right? So then the deal doesn't work out. So the biggest thing here is to have the trust between the buyer and the seller. We've had deals where we've offered a lower amount and we've won the deal because of that trust, because of that empathy that we've been able to build, and because of like kind of telling that here's a direction we want to take this company. Here's how we want to continue your legacy. So trust is, I think, one of the biggest things. Financials is another thing, right? So if I see on your prospectus that you're listing $1 million in revenue, $100,000 in net profit, I expect during my detective work of due diligence financials that's what the numbers should be. Definitely if you're looking to sell or if you're looking to buy, ensure that you have clean financials. I also want to make sure that it's not heavily dependent on the seller, where if the whole brand is just on the seller and I put my face on it, if that would hurt the clientele, the audience, then that's sort of hard. It's hard to sell that type of business. So we definitely want to buy something that's not brand dependent. So if the brand really relies on you, it's how do you take a step back and ensure the operations are functioning without you? If you're able to kind of, take yourself out of the day-to-day, the valuation of your business will go up. And I'm talking, from a buying side of things is if I find something that they could be easily replaceable, hey, I'm going to pay more for that money or for that business. So besides financials, operations, trust, there's also the technical side of things. So ensuring that the website isn't outdated or isn't on GoDaddy platform or something like that. We've had a few companies where we've bought something, and when we've migrated things over, our SEO has tanked. And so we don't want to go through that again. So as long as kind of the technical side of things, the platform and the website is updated, again, I would pay market rate or above for some of that work as well. And then, the IPs, the SOPs, if you have that, that's even added bonus. Yep. So that's sort of the things I look for in a company.